In this video, I'm going to describe how to use the system clipboard to move complex objects between AIR applications. I'll be using two different applications named Object Source and Object Dest that are part of the Chapter 02 Begin project. If you're following along in the exercises, open these two applications in FlexBuilder. I'll start off in objectsource.mxml. I'll open up the code to full screen so we can see as much code as possible. This application retrieves data from the PHP interface that I described in earlier videos. So in order to run this application, you'll need to make sure that your copy of MAMP or WAMP is running, as it is on my system. I'll run the application and show you the goal. In this version of the application, the data is retrieved from the server as the application opens up. I want to be able to select a single row from the data grid and then copy that row to the clipboard. And then in the destination application, I'd like to be able to paste that data so that its data shows up in this data entry form in detail. So here are the steps. I'll close both applications and return to the code. In the source application, place the cursor inside the existing copy to clipboard method. Notice that this method starts off empty. Now I'm going to retrieve a reference to the currently selected object from the data grid. Notice that the data grid has an ID of person grid. I'll declare a variable named dataObj typed as an object. And then I'll reference that from the data grid, person grid, .selected item. Now I'm going to clear the clipboard and then copy this data object to the clipboard. Just as with the earlier video where I cleared the data, I'm going to use the clipboard object's general clipboard property, and from there I'll call the clear method. Then I'll call the clipboard general clipboard.setData method. So far this looks exactly the same as before. But now we get to the name of the format. If the object that you're copying from one application to another has properties that are exclusively string values, you can use text format as the format name. But if you're moving other kinds of data like integers, numbers, booleans, and so on, you have to create your own custom format name. Otherwise, you'll run into runtime errors when you try to paste the data in later. So, I'm going to create a very simple format name named custom format. In an actual application, I would probably use a more descriptive format name, but I want to make it clear that you can make up the name and call it whatever you want. Then I'll pass in the data object, dataObj. I'll also make a call to alert.show to give the user an indication that the data has been copied to the clipboard. I'll save my changes, run the application to test it, and you'll notice that when the application first opens up, the Copy to Clipboard button is disabled. That's because its enabled property is bound to an expression that only turns the button on when I select a row. Now I'll click the button, and I'll get the message that the data has been copied to the clipboard. Now I'll go to the destination application. In the destination application, notice that there's a bindable variable named aPerson, data typed as an object. Once again, as in the previous examples, I'll use the clipboard class's getData method. I'll assign the value of the existing variable aPerson to clipboard.generalClipboard.getData, and then I'll use the same custom format name that I used when I put the data into the clipboard in the other application. Because the variable aPerson is already declared and is bindable, and because the text input controls within the form below are binding to the properties of that object, when I paste the data in, I should see the details of that object appear in the destination application. So now I'll run both applications. Notice that when you're working in FlexBuilder, you can run two applications at a time, as long as they each have different identifiers or application IDs. So I'll run the two applications, and I'll place them side by side on the screen. I'll go to the source application, select a row of data, I'll choose Robert Lombardi, and copy it to the clipboard. I'll get the message that the data has been copied successfully. Now I'll go to the destination application and paste, and you'll see the data appear. I'll be able to go back and forth between the two applications, select another row and copy, Go back to the destination and paste, and once again you'll see the data moving between Air applications. You can copy and paste complex objects very simply in this manner. There is a limitation here in that if you use strongly typed value objects, you will be able to successfully copy a strongly typed value object into the clipboard, but when you retrieve it at the other side, it will be transferred into a standard object. There are ways around this. There's an interface called iExternalizable, which you can implement in your value objects, but that takes a good bit of work. But in many cases, it's a lot simpler to just use the standard ActionScript object as the format for complex data that you move from one application to another using the clipboard. Now in the next video, I'll show you how to do something very similar, but this time instead of passing one object from source to destination application, I'll use an array collection and show you that you can pass complete sets of data from one application to another using the clipboard.